Hello, welcome to the first of 3 videos in which I'd like to share some ideas on how to become familiar on the guitar with the complex pitch structures of Elliott Carter. And I'm making particular reference to Carter's first and longest piece for solo guitar, written in 1983 and entitled Changes. Playing Carter's music becomes much easier when we know his language so well that we feel it under our fingers and can even improvise with it. I'm going to keep my language fairly informal and mix in some terms from regular tonal theory. For example, where post-tonal theorists will tend to speak of a set class, Carter himself spoke of chords, so I'm going to do the same. We'll begin with a chord that crops up in much of Carter's late music, the all-interval tetrachord. This chord doesn't play a major role in Changes, but it plays a major role in Carter's later music as a whole. And it's a great place to start because it's probably the easiest of his structures to handle. When we speak of the all-interval tetrachord, we're actually speaking of 2 chords or set classes. One is 0137, and the other is 0146. What these 2 chords have in common is this: they both contain all 6 interval classes. So if we take the first chord that I played, a member of 0137, we have interval class 1, a minor second, interval class 2, a major second, interval class 3, a minor third, interval class 4, a major third, interval class 5, a perfect fifth, which is of course the inversion of a perfect fourth, and the tritone interval class 6 is this. So let's look at a passage from Carter's short guitar piece, Shard. Let's take the first chord in the passage. This is an example of an all-interval tetrachord. Ordering the interval classes, we can see that there's one instance of interval class 1, a major 7th, interval class 2, a minor 7th, interval class 3, a major 6th, interval class 4, a major 10th, interval class 5, a perfect 4th, and finally interval class 6, the tritone. Thus we have the wonderfully rich sound of an all-interval tetrachord, full of possibilities. And there are so many passages in Carter where he'll simply hold one of these chords and turn the kaleidoscope, just let you listen to these 6 basic different sounds. Now he doesn't do that in this passage, but if we look through the rest of it, it turns out that it's saturated with all-interval tetrachords. The brackets in the example show that there are 16 of them in just these 2 lines of music. Now going through this passage and finding all of the all-interval chords, as I've done with the brackets there, will certainly transform our understanding and our hearing of the music. It will even be worthwhile, as a kind of meditation on the music, to subject each chord in the passage to the same test we applied to the first, sounding each of the 6 interval classes in turn. But this is still very far from what we really want. What we really want is to feel the all-interval chords under our fingers as we play in real time, so that our intellectual knowledge of the chord, our oral impression of it, and our tactile sensation of playing the passage are fused into one complex experience. When in this case it turns out that there is an easy way, because there's a shortcut to building an all-interval tetrachord. Here's what you do. You take any instance of interval class 3, for example, this minor 10th, and to that interval, you add a tritone. Any tritone, as long as it doesn't duplicate any of the pitch classes of the interval class 3. So you don't want any unisons or octaves. No matter how you do this, the result is always an all-interval tetrachord. Sometimes you'll get a voicing of 0137, as here. But if I move this tritone down a whole step, now I have a voicing of 0146. Or if I move it down one more half step, still 0146. Or if I take the original tritone, move it up another semitone, that's 0137 again. Now, returning to this passage from Chard, we can see that the simple recipe I just described is in fact the inventive idea that Carter is exploring. Just take a look at the second line. We have minor third, tritone, minor third, tritone, minor third, tritone, minor third, tritone, minor third. So now that we're familiar with this rule and how it produces these overlapping all-interval tetrachords, the passage already feels much more logical under the fingers. But we don't want to stop there. Now that we've made this observation, we want to turn away from the score and make this rule, this principle for forming these chords, our own through improvisation. So we want to go about it very slowly. I recommend going no faster than you can think and follow the movements of your fingers, verifying at each stage that you have what you think you have. So if I start, for example, with this minor third, I'm going to add a tritone. And I'm going to add hold that tritone and add a different minor third. And maybe I'll take this minor third and add a different tritone. And perhaps I'll take a moment now to check the intervals. Simply listening and drinking in the sonority of the different intervals. Perhaps now I'll make a melodic chain, a minor third, a tritone, and I'll hold this tritone, add a third again, hold that tritone and add a different minor third, and I'll make a longer melodic chain, holding this tritone at a major sixth, also interval class 3 of course, and holding that major sixth, I'll change the tritone to something else. And again play that major sixth. And now I'll try to combine minor thirds and tritones into chords. The tritone, trying to explore tone color and place some major sixths against that tritone. Try some more chords. Again, hold the tritone. Here's a major sixth, and then a compound one. And we can make some faster gestures. Now sometimes if you work simply combining these intervals, you'll find that this can happen. You play a minor third, you play a tritone, and you've accidentally formed an octave. So you no longer have 4 unique pitch classes, and therefore no all-interval tetrachord. Well, there's a trick you can use to avoid this. Suppose we start with the first interval, let's say this tritone. Now on the guitar fingerboard, I'm going to think of the pitches on either side, 1 fret away, on either side of the pitches that I'm playing. So I've got a C sharp here, I'm thinking of C natural and D. And I've got a G here, I'm thinking of F sharp and G sharp. I can take any of those 4 notes, let's say the D, and then use that to form interval class 3. In either direction, doesn't matter. No matter how you go about doing that, that always ensures that there's no intersection. There are other ways of doing the same thing. In fact, you just have to make sure that, given your starting interval, that you don't pick a new pitch that is either interval class 3 or interval class 6 away from one of your starting pitches. But of course the semitone is very easy to work with. So now we've worked with combining these intervals and finding out for ourselves what it means to form these tetrachords. We've heard so many voicings of the all-interval tetrachords, so now when we return to Carter's music, our fingers are educated, and the experience is as familiar and intuitively right as, let's say, playing a chain of thirds in a 19th century study. Thank you.